The question that should never be asked, a simple question that shook everything, it was just a question. A small, quiet question, the kind you'd expect from any child at the dinner table. But when she asked, "Am I allowed to have dinner?" it struck me in a way nothing else could. Let me tell you something, the weight of that question wasn't in the words themselves. It was in what those words revealed. A little girl, innocent and trusting, hesitated to ask for something as basic as food. That hesitation carried years of learned doubt, of caution, of fear. And in that moment, it wasn't just a question about dinner. It was a question about permission to exist, to be acknowledged, to be cared for. And that is heavy dot when innocence meets hesitation. Children are born confident. They reach, they ask, they explore without hesitation. But somewhere along the way, that natural trust can shrink. A tone, a glance, a harsh word, they teach a child to pause, to second guess, to measure their worth before asking. When a little girl hesitates over something as ordinary as food, it is a sign. A sign that fear has quietly slipped into the spaces where curiosity and confidence should be. Ask yourself this: what had she seen that made her question herself? When innocence meets hesitation, the world begins to teach a child that needs are negotiable, the weight hidden in polite words, "Am I allowed?" Two small words that carry far more than they seem to. On the surface, they sound polite, they sound harmless, but beneath them, there is a quiet pressure, a shadow of control. Sometimes control doesn't arrive as commands. Sometimes it arrives in polite tones and hesitation, and the unspoken rules that tell a child their needs are optional. These small words hold power. They shape self-worth, they set boundaries without explanation, and they teach a child that even asking can feel like a mistake. Polite words can carry weight that breaks more than a loud shout ever could. Asking permission instead of living freely. What happens when a child asks permission for something that should simply be theirs? Every time she asks, she is reminded life is something to negotiate. Needs are something to measure. Confidence is replaced by caution. And if this pattern continues, hesitation becomes a habit, fear becomes normal, and asking permission becomes a reflex. Let me ask you this. How often do we live in a world where asking permission replaces living freely? It starts small, quiet, unnoticed, but it grows into self-doubt and action and fear. A warning sign beyond the family table. This moment was not just about one dinner, one child, or one household. It was a warning sign. A small question that reflects a larger pattern, how easily fear and control can creep into lives. It is a reminder that what seems minor can carry long-lasting consequences. When children learn that they must seek permission to exist, it is a reflection of a world that often teaches hesitation over courage, caution over confidence. And if we do not see it, acknowledge it, and change it, these lessons follow them into adulthood. When innocence learns fear before confidence, fear is learned. Not born children are born fearless. They explore, they reach, they speak, they trust. Confidence is their natural state. But somewhere along the way, the world teaches them otherwise. A sharp word, a disappointed look, a cold silence. These are lessons that imprint without warning. Let me tell you something. Fear is never natural. It is taught. It sneaks in quietly, dressed as rules, advice, or expectations. And when children learn that their questions, their desires, or their needs can provoke punishment or disapproval, hesitation replaces boldness, courage shrinks, confidence folds, and that little spark of trust in themselves begins to dim long before anyone even notices. The silent lessons of tone and punishment. Not every lesson comes with a shout. Sometimes fear arrives softly through tone, a pause, or the unpredictability of reactions. A child asks a simple question, and the answer is not just no, but a look, a sigh, a subtle tension. These moments teach more than words ever could. They teach. Measure yourself before you speak. Pause before you act. Your needs are negotiable. These are lessons learned silently, absorbed like water into roots. And over time, these quiet instructions shape behavior, limit curiosity, and build hesitation into personality. Fear grows quietly, like mold in a dark room, hidden, unnoticed, but corrosive. From hesitation to self-doubt, when hesitation becomes habit, self-doubt follows. The child who once reached freely now measures every move. The confident, curious child turns cautious, polite, and careful. Ask yourself this: how many times does a child shrink before it becomes automatic? How many questions are avoided before they are seen as risky? This quiet self-regulation doesn't come from choice, it comes from fear. And when it becomes part of personality, it spreads to adulthood. Apologizing for needs, second-guessing decisions, waiting for permission, these are the echoes of a childhood taught to hesitate. Confidence is replaced with caution. Boldness is replaced with careful silence. Consequences of quiet fear that grows quietly changes lives. It teaches children to shrink. It makes them people pleasers. It turns curiosity into caution and action into hesitation. Every ignored need, every moment of doubt builds a pattern that can follow someone for decades. Adults often carry this silent fear unknowingly. They apologize for existing. They wait to be chosen. They deny their needs. All of it comes from lessons that seemed small at the time. And let me tell you this, the cost is high. A child who learns fear before confidence carries it like a shadow that stretches far into life. Confidence versus polite compliance. There's a stark difference between confidence and polite compliance. Confidence is loud. It moves freely. It reaches without hesitation. Fear, on the other hand, is polite. It waits. It asks permission. It shrinks to fit the expectations of others. Every time a child learns to choose caution over action, they practice fear instead of boldness. Is it just a childhood problem? It follows into adulthood. And the lesson is clear. If you allow fear to take the lead, it will dictate your choices. Confidence must be nurtured, or fear will quietly shape your life in ways you never notice. The invisible damage of over-control. When guidance becomes control, guidance should help a child grow. Control traps them. There is a subtle difference, but it matters more than we realize. When adults make every decision, correct every mistake, and dictate every action, they teach dependence, not strength. A hand that guides can lift, but a hand that directs without reason cages. Over-control looks like care, but it's something else entirely. It teaches children that they cannot trust themselves, that the world must always be navigated through rules dictated by others. And let me tell you something, this isn't harmless. This silent control shapes thought, choice, and confidence long before they ever face real challenges. Compliance without character when control replaces guidance. Obedience becomes the goal. Children learn to follow instructions, not to make decisions. They learn to do what is expected, not what is right. And the cost is character. Obedience can survive under supervision, but when the rules disappear, the person freezes. They have not practiced thinking, deciding, or acting independently. This is why control disguised as care is dangerous. It creates capable followers, but not capable people. It creates children who ask, but never act. Adults who have been over-controlled often struggle to trust themselves, second-guess every choice, and doubt their instincts. The freeze response. Asking instead of acting over control teaches a child to freeze. Instead of deciding, they ask. Instead of acting, they wait for permission. And every time they do, confidence erodes. Life, however, does not wait. Opportunities pass. Decisions demand action. And the habit of waiting, asking, and seeking approval becomes a pattern that persists. It teaches that mistakes are dangerous, that independence is risky, and that choices are better made by someone else. The very lessons intended to protect end up restricting. The child grows into an adult who hesitates, who freezes under pressure, who asks before acting, and often misses the life waiting just beyond hesitation. Tough love reality check, let me tell you something. If you control everything, they never learn anything. And if you try to shield them from every challenge, you rob them of the strength to face life. Discipline is guidance, not a leash. Rules are boundaries, not cages. Every time adults confuse control with care, they create fear where courage should grow. It is not cruelty to step back. It is the responsibility of leadership, teaching resilience, trust, and independence. Tough love is not harshness. It is the understanding that children must be allowed to struggle, decide, and sometimes fail in order to grow. The gold cage metaphor, a cage can be gold, comfortable, and filled with care and still be a cage. Luxury does not replace freedom. Protection does not replace confidence. When children are over-controlled, they may have everything they need physically, but their choices, their instincts, and their self-trust are locked away. And when adults do this, they often fail to see the cost. What looks like a safe environment can secretly teach hesitation, dependence, and fear. Let this be clear. Freedom to act, even with risk, builds strength. Comfort without choice builds compliance, not courage. And that is the invisible damage of over-control. Outline 4. How small moments shape a lifetime. It's never just a small momenta question at the dinner table. A pause before speaking, a look that says, wait, these are not small moments. They are the moments that shape identity. Every time a child learns hesitation over action, doubt over confidence, it leaves a mark. It is easy to dismiss these moments as insignificant, but life is built from them. The little things accumulate. They form patterns, habits, and beliefs. And when those patterns go unnoticed, they define how a child moves through the world. One moment may seem tiny, but its echoes are long, stretching into adulthood in ways that cannot always be seen. Micro moments become internalized roles children do. Not only learn from big lessons, they learn from every small interaction. A word spoken softly, a look withheld, a correction repeated. These micro moments teach self-doubt, caution, and compliance. They become internal rules. Measure yourself, don't disturb, don't ask too much. Over time, these rules are memorized unconsciously. They shape the way children speak, act, and even feel about themselves. A simple hesitation is not random, it is learned. And the patterns formed here carry into adult life. The world often misses these small lessons, but they are the foundation of how we think, act, and respond to fear. From childhood doubt to adult self-sabotage begins as hesitation becomes self-doubt. What begins as quiet fear becomes a lifetime of second-guessing. Adults who were once careful children often apologize for needs they shouldn't, hesitate when action is required, and shrink to fit expectations. Opportunities pass them by because they wait for permission. Confidence erodes, boldness fades, and the inner voice that should encourage action instead whispers caution. Let me tell you something. Small moments matter more than we think. Every time we ignore hesitation in a child, we risk shaping an adult who doubts, delays, and diminishes their own potential. Life is built on these quiet, repeated lessons. The responsibility of adults hold enormous power in shaping these moments. Every interaction, every tone, every decision carries weight. We are the mirrors children look to for guidance, safety, and trust. When we respond with calm, understanding, and encouragement, we teach confidence. When we respond with control, fear, or doubt, we teach hesitation. The responsibility is clear. We must see these moments, acknowledge their importance, and act with purpose. The child's self-trust is fragile, and it is built on how we show up in these small, repeated moments. What we overlook today becomes what they carry tomorrow. Moments matter. The cracks we don't see, you don't notice the crack until the wall collapses. Small moments, ignored, forgotten, or dismissed, build patterns that last a lifetime. Every word, every hesitation, every response counts. Moments matter because they form the foundation of who a child becomes and how they navigate the world. Love isn't fear in disguise. Obey out of fear. Love nurtures, encourages, and protects, but it does not require trembling obedience. When we confuse love with control, children learn that care is conditional, that affection depends on compliance, and that fear is part of being valued. Let me tell you something. Love should lift, not limit. A hug, a smile, a guiding hand teaches trust. Fear, on the other hand, teaches hesitation. When children associate love with threat, they shrink, question themselves, and measure their worth against compliance. That is not love, it is control disguised as care, and it leaves marks that last a lifetime. Authority without warmth fails. Authority alone is not enough. Rules without warmth create obedience, not trust. Power without understanding shapes children into people who comply, not people who think. Respect that is demanded through silence or intimidation may appear effective, but it is fragile. It disappears when the authority figure is gone. Children need guidance wrapped in care, discipline delivered with empathy. Without warmth, rules feel like chains, and chains never teach courage. They teach avoidance, hesitation, and quiet compliance. True authority guides and protects, while fear-based control only teaches how to survive within limits set by someone else. Respect shouldn't depend on silence. There is a dangerous misconception that quiet obedience equals respect. It does not. A child who is silent because they fear consequences is not showing respect. They are protecting themselves. Real respect is earned through fairness, consistency, and understanding. It grows where trust is built, not where fear rules. Let me ask you, were they behaving because they respected the rules or because they were afraid? This distinction matters. Silence may appear neat, but it often hides hesitation, doubt, and anxiety. If respect is built on fear, it disappears when fear disappears. True respect thrives in safe, consistent, and caring environments. Tough love truth. Fear vanishes. Respect doesn't stay. Respect that comes from fear disappears the moment fear does. These words hold a lesson for every adult. Fear can force temporary compliance, but it cannot create trust, courage, or character. Once the threat is gone, so is the respect it forced. Children and adults alike need consistent guidance paired with empathy, not intimidation. Tough love is not harshness. It is teaching that strength, choice, and confidence grow where safety, clarity, and understanding exist. When we confuse love with authority, we rob the next generation of independence, boldness, and trust in themselves. Breaking generational cycles patterns repeat. Parents who learned fear-based obedience often unconsciously pass it on. Generations have been shaped by quiet compliance, hesitation, and measured speech. But this does not need to continue. Recognizing the cycle is the first step to change. Love should be the guide, not fear. Authority should empower, not restrict. By showing children trust, modeling confidence, and separating care from control, we interrupt patterns that have lasted for decades. We do not blame the past, we choose a different way forward. And when we do, children learn to act with courage, speak with clarity, and live with confidence. Outline 6. The moment I realized this was bigger than her seeing. Beyond the dinner table, it wasn't just about dinner. That simple question revealed a pattern far larger than one household. I realized that many children grow up thinking they must ask permission for basic needs, for acknowledgement, for existence itself. And that pattern doesn't stop at childhood. It carries into society, into workplaces, into relationships. Adults who learned caution before confidence, who measured themselves before speaking, are everywhere. The world is full of people who hesitate when action is required, who apologize for their needs, who shrink to fit expectations. This is bigger than any one child. It is a reflection of how quietly fear can shape an entire generation. Adults still asking permission look around. How many adults still ask permission in their minds? How many second-guess themselves before making a choice? These adults were once children taught to measure hesitation, taught to believe that their needs were negotiable. And they carry that pattern silently. They apologize when it is not necessary, shrink when they could stand tall, and wait to be chosen when they could act. This is the echo of childhood fear carried into adulthood. And let me tell you something, it is not weakness. It is learned behavior. That learned behavior can be unlearned. The subtle patterns of compliance, apologizing unnecessarily, waiting for permission, shrinking to fit the expectations of others. These are the patterns that begin in childhood and persist silently. The child who once asked, "Am I allowed?" becomes the adult who asks, "Is it okay if I speak?" Small habits, repeated over years, shape lives. They are subtle, quiet, easy to overlook, but they define how a person interacts with the world. Awareness is the first step. Recognition is the second. And action, the conscious choice to respond differently, is the third. This is how change begins. Different age, same fear, different age. Same fear. The little girl who hesitated before asking for dinner and the adult who hesitates before speaking up at work are mirrors of the same lesson learned too early. Fear whispers the same lines across decades. You might be wrong. You might be too much. You might not belong. And these whispers can control choices, limit dreams, and shrink confidence. But here's the truth. Awareness breaks the pattern. Understanding that hesitation is learned, not inherent, allows us to respond differently. Courage can be cultivated at any age. Confidence can replace fear if we choose it. What this teaches us about boundaries and safety. Safety is emotional first. Confidence doesn't grow from rules alone. It grows from the belief that you are safe, that your needs are recognized, that your presence matters. Emotional safety is the soil in which self-trust takes root. A child who knows they can ask, speak, and act without fear is a child who will reach farther, speak louder, and trust themselves more fully. Safety is not just about physical protection. It is about feeling secure in one's own worth. And when children feel safe emotionally, they can handle challenge, risk, and learning without hesitation. This is the foundation of boldness and confidence. Thriving in assumed security children flourish when their needs are met without questioning, without fear, without hesitation. They don't need to measure themselves or ask permission. They operate from a place of trust. When adults provide a steady, reliable environment, children explore, experiment, and grow. They learn that the world is a place where their presence matters, where their voice counts, and where taking action is safe. Assumed security frees energy for creativity, curiosity, and courage. And the difference is profound. A child who feels safe acts boldly. A child who fears judgment waits quietly. The foundation of growth is built on assumed safety. Boundaries create freedom. Boundaries are not restrictions, they are guides. Discipline is not control, it is preparation. When adults set clear, consistent boundaries with care, children learn limits without fear. They know where safety begins and ends, and within that framework, they are free to explore, create, and act. Boundaries teach responsibility, respect, and self-trust. Without them, freedom becomes chaos. With them, freedom becomes powerful. Let me tell you something. Children need both structure and support. Safety within boundaries allows confidence to grow. It is paradoxical. Restriction within safety breeds the most genuine freedom. Confidence grows from consistency. Consistency is the bridge between fear and confidence. When adults respond predictably, reliably, and calmly, children learn to trust themselves and the world. Confidence emerges not from chance, but from repeated experiences of reliability. They learn that their needs are met, their questions are valued, and their choices matter. And this consistent foundation allows them to move from hesitation to action, from doubt to boldness, from fear to courage. The responsibility is ours. Provide stability, respond with care, and confidence will follow. Roots grow deep where the ground is stable. Roots grow deep where the ground is stable. When children feel safe, supported, and guided, they develop strength that cannot be shaken. Stability, care, and clear boundaries create resilience. Every child deserves that foundation. And when we provide it, we nurture boldness, trust, and the courage to thrive. This completes the middle section of the speech, progressing from love and authority to societal reflection and principles of safety and boundaries. The script can now continue seamlessly with outline. 8. Rewriting the script starting. Now, rewriting the script starting now, interrupting the cycle before it controls. You let me tell you something. Patterns don't have to define you. Just because hesitation, fear, or compliance has been taught for years doesn't mean it must continue. Change can happen at any moment, even in long-standing habits. The cycle only controls you if you allow it to. Every time you notice hesitation, doubt, or the urge to seek permission, you have the choice to respond differently. You can step in, notice the pattern, and choose a new way. It starts with awareness and intention. One conscious choice can break years of repetition. The moment you decide not to repeat what hurt you, the cycle loses its power. You can take control of how you respond, how you teach, and how you live. Language, tone, and consistency as tools. Words are powerful. The way we speak, our tone, our phrasing, our consistency shapes the people around us, especially children. A simple question answered with patience or understanding can nurture confidence. A careless word, a sigh, or a tense tone can instill hesitation. It is not just what you say, but how you say it and how reliably you say it. Consistency is the bridge between confusion and trust. Children and even adults learn from repeated patterns. When language and tone are used intentionally, they teach autonomy, courage, and security. Every word becomes a tool to build confidence, not fear. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to model strength, clarity, and self-trust. Conscious responses over habitual reactions. It is easy to react automatically, to respond with the same patterns we were taught. But reacting habitually only repeats what we learned. Conscious response is different. It requires pause, awareness, and intention. Ask yourself, am I reacting from fear, habit, or clarity? Every choice you make shapes how others, especially children, learn to navigate the world. A deliberate response replaces hesitation with confidence. A conscious choice models courage, not caution. This applies to parenting, leadership, and every relationship. Stop handing down cycles unconsciously. Instead, respond with care, patience, and clarity. Teach the next generation that action can come from confidence, not fear. It is not easy, but it is necessary, and it changes everything. Replacing permission with confidence. What if permission was no longer required? What if asking was replaced with believing in your right to act, speak, and exist fully? Imagine the power of replacing hesitation with boldness. Every child, every person deserves to feel entitled to their own needs without waiting for approval. Confidence grows where trust and safety exist. By replacing permission with confidence, we model self-assurance, independence, and courage. This is not hypothetical. It begins with small choices, repeated deliberately. Every yes, you can, silently said, every space allowed for action, builds a person who acts without fear, speaks without apology, and trusts themselves fully. Healing is choosing a different sentence. Healing is not rewriting the past. Healing is choosing a different sentence in the present. Every pattern learned, every hesitation taught, every fear passed down can be interrupted. You do not have to repeat what hurt you. You can choose your words, your tone, your actions, and your lessons differently. Let the metaphor sink in. The sentence of fear is old, worn, and unnecessary. You have the power to replace it with confidence, trust, and boldness. Healing is not passive. It is action. Every deliberate, conscious choice to act differently is a new sentence, one that teaches courage, not hesitation, speaking to the adult who needed permission to acknowledging pain without becoming a victim. You have carried hesitation for years. You have asked for permission when you didn't need to, doubted yourself when you should have acted, and measured your worth by compliance. That is real, and it is valid, but acknowledging it does not make you a victim. Pain becomes a teacher only when it informs action. Recognize the moments that taught fear and pause not to stay there, but to move differently. Your experiences shaped you, yes, but they do not define you. You can act with authority, speak with clarity, and trust yourself. Acknowledging the past is the first step, but it must be paired with a choice to act differently in the present. Calling out patterns of self-denial. Look closely at the habits you carry. Do you apologize for asking? Do you wait to be chosen? Do you shrink in your own space? These are not flaws, they are patterns learned long ago. But patterns can be interrupted. You don't have to deny your needs or shrink to make others comfortable. The hesitation, the self-doubt, the people-pleasing needs were taught, and they can be unlearned. Recognizing them is not blame. It is clarity. Understanding these patterns gives you power. Once you see them, you can respond differently. You can choose confidence over hesitation, clarity over doubt, and action over waiting. You don't need permission anymore. You don't need permission. Not from anyone. Not from the world. Not from the past. You are allowed to speak, to act, to claim space. Tough love is telling you this truth. Hesitation is learned. Autonomy is chosen. Stop seeking validation outside yourself. Stop measuring your worth against approval. Every time you pause unnecessarily, remember, you are not small, and your needs are not negotiable. Stand, speak, act, choose courage. Confidence is yours to claim. Every deliberate step taken without waiting is a declaration. You trust yourself, and you are no longer bound by patterns you inherited. You are allowed. Strength through self-trust, self-trust is a muscle. It grows only when exercised. Every decision made intentionally, every choice taken without fear, every need honored without apology, strengthens it. Adults who have carried hesitation for decades can rebuild this muscle. It begins with noticing, acting differently, and reinforcing confidence in yourself. Self-trust allows you to set boundaries, claim space, and respond boldly to challenges. It is the foundation of independence, courage, and clarity. And here's the truth. Nothing outside can replace it. Authority comes from within. Strength comes from self-trust. And the moment you choose to trust yourself fully, the patterns of fear lose their hold. You're allowed. Repetition for impact are allowed. You're allowed to speak. You're allowed to act. You're allowed to claim your space. You're allowed to make mistakes, to learn, to grow. You're allowed to exist fully, boldly, confidently. Let that sink in. You're allowed. You don't need permission. You are enough. You have always been enough. And now, it is your choice to step fully into that truth. The promise I made in that moment, an internal commitment without drama in that moment. I made a promise, not loud, not dramatic, but clear. I promised to protect, guide, and nurture, to create a space where needs are met, voices are heard, and confidence is built. The promise was simple. I would respond differently than the patterns I had seen. I would not teach hesitation or compliance disguised as care. I would model courage, patience, and trust. And that promise extended beyond one child, beyond one moment. It was a commitment to act intentionally, to teach through presence and action, and to ensure that no one who looked to me would doubt their right to exist fully, leading by example. Through presence, actions speak louder than words. Calm, consistent, intentional presence teaches more than explanations ever could. By showing up with clarity, reliability, and care, you model confidence, courage, and trust. Children, and even adults, learn not from commands, but from what is demonstrated. Being present means noticing hesitation, addressing fear, and allowing space for growth. It is the quiet, repeated choices that build trust and self-assurance. And let me tell you something, leadership is not loud. It is steady. It is reliable. And it is visible in how you respond, how you teach, and how you allow others to act freely. Who are you becoming safe for? Ask yourself, who are you becoming safe for? Every choice you make, every word, every response, every action creates an environment. Is it one where fear thrives or one where confidence grows? Are you protecting a child, a friend, or yourself from patterns that taught hesitation? Safety is not just physical, it is emotional, it is relational, it is consistent. By consciously choosing to act differently, you provide a space where growth, courage, and trust can flourish. The question is not hypothetical. Who will benefit from the changes you make today? Your actions ripple outward. Your presence sets the tone. Safety begins with you. Protection isn't loud. It's consistent. Protection does not shout. It does not need to be seen to be effective. Consistency is the greatest safeguard. Showing up repeatedly, responding with care, and maintaining clear, predictable boundaries creates trust that fear cannot penetrate. Children and adults learn to move confidently when they know they are supported. Leadership and love are measured by reliability, not dramatics. When safety is consistent, confidence grows naturally. And the most important lesson is this: protection, guidance, and care are not loud. They are steady. They are constant. They are unwavering. And that is how we ensure that no one has to ask if they are allowed to exist. Do you want me to continue with those? What the world needs more of right now, toughness isn't the answer. The world keeps saying we need tougher people. Let me tell you, toughness alone does not create resilience, courage, or confidence. What the world truly needs are safe spaces, environments where people can grow, experiment, fail, and rise without fear. Children and adults alike flourish not under pressure, but under guidance, trust, and consistency. Strength is not measured by who bends the least, but by who can stand tall when they know they are supported. Fear teaches compliance, but safety teaches boldness. The next generation, and even our peers, do not need to be hardened. They need to feel safe enough to stretch, speak, and step forward without hesitation. Confidence thrives where dignity is honored. Confidence does not grow in spaces where worth is questioned or ignored. It thrives where dignity is respected, where voices are heard, and where emotional safety is prioritized. Every interaction that treats a person as capable, valuable, and deserving plants the seeds of self-trust. When children are allowed to act without fear, when adults are recognized without judgment, Resilience is built naturally. This is not just theory, it is observable in every environment where people flourish. Respect, fairness, and care are the foundations of strength. Confidence is not inherited. It is cultivated where dignity is honored, and every person deserves that opportunity. Fear creates obedience. Safety creates strength. Fear can force temporary obedience, but it cannot instill courage, trust, or initiative. People follow rules when afraid, but they take action when safe. Consider a garden. A plant may survive under harsh conditions, but it thrives in rich soil with light and water. Likewise, humans flourish when environments support growth rather than enforce submission. Repetition matters. Fear creates obedience. Safety creates strength. Let that sink in. Every teacher, parent, manager, and leader has the power to influence which it will be. You can create fear-driven compliance, or you can build strength, confidence, and self-reliance. Safety, trust, and dignity are not optional. They are essential. Conscious leadership at every level leadership is not just about authority. It is about creating spaces where others can grow and thrive. Leaders, parents, and influencers, your actions matter. Every decision, word, and gesture sets the tone for safety or fear. By intentionally fostering environments where people feel supported, heard, and respected, you cultivate boldness and confidence. Neglect this, and hesitation spreads. Lead consciously, act deliberately, and build trust through consistency. Safety is leadership's most powerful tool. Use it wisely. Every child, every team member, every person around you learns from the spaces you create. Never make them ask for what they deserve, returning to the question that started it all. Remember the little girl who asked, "Am I allowed to have dinner?" That simple, quiet question carried more weight than we could imagine. It revealed hesitation, fear, and learned compliance. It was a mirror of patterns that continue in children and adults alike. But it is also a call to action. Every time a child or an adult must ask permission to exist fully, we miss the opportunity to provide safety, confidence, and trust. That question reminds us why awareness matters, why action matters, and why creating environments of dignity is not optional, it is urgent, redefining. What allowed truly means being allowed should never depend on someone else's judgment. No one should have to ask permission to exist, to be heard, or to have their needs met. Permission should be replaced with certainty, the certainty that care, safety, and respect are the default. Every interaction can either reinforce fear or cultivate confidence. Every choice we make, every response to hesitation teaches what is acceptable. Redefining aloud is about teaching that dignity and belonging are rights, not privileges. It is about modeling courage, trust, and clarity in every action. Every day, be the adult they needed. Be the adult who creates safety. Be the one who models courage, clarity, and confidence. Show the next generation, and even those around you, that action does not require permission, that mistakes are part of growth, and that needs are to be honored, not negotiated. Step in with guidance, patience, and trust. Lead by presence, not fear. Provide boundaries without intimidation. Give feedback without judgment. Show that care is unconditional, that voice matters, and that everyone has the right to exist fully. Your actions teach more than words ever can. Be the adult who nurtures independence, boldness, and self-trust. No child should have to ask to exist. No child should ever have to ask if they are allowed to exist. No one should have to measure worth before speaking, acting, or being. Safety, trust, and dignity are not optional. They are essential. Provide space, provide care, and model confidence. The smallest choices create ripples. The presence of one committed adult can teach courage, instill self-trust, and break cycles of fear. Let this be your charge. ensure no one hesitates to exist fully, boldly, and without apology.